Hello everyone. News summary from Moscow program. First update for today, 8th of September. Now it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. And dear friends, before I will go through the news that I have bookmarked for this update, let me give you some little announcement, which is that from now on, and if this change will be liked by community, then from now on, and as long as I can, I will start making 2 live streams a day. Sorry, 2 news updates a day, not necessarily live streams. 2 updates a day. Sometimes first update will be pre-recorded video, most likely walk and talk type. And in that case, in the evening, I will have a live stream. Like today, for example, I did announce on my Telegram and Twitter X pages that first update will be walk and talk. Second will be live stream between 7 and 9 approximately in the evening. And if I have a live stream in the morning, let's say tomorrow, for example, then for evening time, I will try to make additional news update in a walk and talk style, most likely. But in any case, I will try to have 2 updates, by the way. One pre-recorded and one live stream. Hopefully, you will like this change. It will give me opportunity to share more information about main topics that Russian media and public is paying attention to. And hopefully this way, maybe we will have a little better chances to reach wider audience. Also, that will be very helpful, of course. So that's when it comes to announcement. Now let's go through some news. And first, what I want to report, dear friends, is about yesterday's large-scale strike that Russia conducted on Kiev-controlled territory, inside Kiev included. And yesterday I reported, dear friends, if you remember, that there was a government building of a Kiev regime on fire, right? And many channels assumed that it was a direct intentional strike of the Russian militaries. And based on these reports on big channels on Telegram, I also did think that maybe this was a sort of a message from Moscow to Kiev regime that we can take you out if you not come to the terms to face the objective reality. But unfortunately, I would say, it was not an intentional Russian strike. It seems like on this decision-making center, one of the decision-making centers of the Kiev regime on a government building. Mayor of Kiev, by the way, yesterday, and a number of other sources from Ukraine made statements that a drone that hit, allegedly, that government building was intercepted. And the debris or damaged drone just hit the building. So in that case, probably target of this drone was something else. Some military industrial facility or point of concentration of military assets of the Kiev regime, but not that building itself, which is quite upsetting, really. I'm not gonna lie, dear friends. I was hoping that Moscow has changed its attitude towards the leadership of this Western-backed terrorist regime in Kiev, but seems like this is not the case, not yet. Anyways, right? Although, by the way, Western media Western so-called media went in full meltdown mode. Western public figures, many of them, and their so-called politicians, they all began whining around, accusing Russia of all sorts of things, as they always do, by the way, as they always do. They forget that Kiev regime on regular basis conducts strikes on administrative buildings of the Russian Federation in the Belgorod region, Kursk region, elsewhere, right? They hit our Kremlin too. You remember that one time when Kiev regime's drones actually hit our Kremlin itself. But Western so-called media forgot about that. Western so-called politicians forgot about that. They began crying that, well, Russia targeted a government building, you know, how dare they did it. What the hell, man? What the hell is wrong with those people? Unfortunately, it was not intentional strike. That's all I can say, by the way. If you ask me, Russia should take out leadership of this terrorist regime, man, immediately. And this should be done on the very first day of special military operation, if you ask me, right? And I'm quite sure vast majority of society here in Russia would agree with me on that. But yet again, we are not policymakers, right? And it seems like Russian president has different approach, at least for now, on the matter. So yes, by the way, I wanted to share with you this update that according to Russian Defense Ministry's statement, all the targets that was for Russian long-range missile and drone strikes on Kiev-controlled territory yesterday, including inside the Kiev, were military facilities, military industrial complex, military assets, no government buildings included or decision-making centers. That's an official statement from Russia, and I guess this is the case. Otherwise, Russian Defense Ministry and the Russian leadership will say that yes, we made decision to take out terrorists that are leading that regime. But seems like a damaged drone just hit that building because it's a high-rise building, tall building, right? And that was it, really. Yes, unfortunate. I was so hopeful that Russian leadership changed their attitude towards those terrorist leadership, but it's not the case. Not for now, not for now. But topic, I think topic worth to be talked about, especially because of this hysteria in the Western so-called media and of Western politicians. Also, dear friends, let me give you some more news. Well, yesterday there was also, during that strike, large-scale Russian drone and missile strike, there was one important nuance that many people might miss, and this important nuance is that a bridge was targeted, by the way, on the Dnieper River. Some media outlets reported that it's the first time when bridge was targeted on the Dnieper River, which is not true, actually. In the Kherson region, by the way, during the battles, both sides were targeting a railway bridge in the Kherson region, for example, railway bridge over the Dnieper, auto bridge over the Dnieper. So definitely that kind of strikes did happen before, but when it comes to deeper territories that Kiev regime controls, yes, in that case one may argue that it is the first time that Russia struck a bridge on the Dnieper River. So the night combined attack of Russian militaries on Ukrainian territory opened a new stage, according to Vzгляд newspaper, of a special military operation. Since the beginning of the special military operation, Russian armed forces have not struck the railway bridges across the Dnieper. This is also not necessarily true, by the way. As I said, I reported just a couple of days ago, isn't it, that Russian Spetsnaz neutralized their sabotage, recon and sabotage units of the Kiev regime that was trained by the NATO on a railway bridge exactly in the Kherson region. Just a couple of days ago I reported about it. So these media outlets sometimes are, not necessarily correct while making, while sharing information. I mean, don't they remember that there is a bridges in the Kherson region too. What the hell? But anyways, armed forces have, according to Взгляд, by the way, newspaper, armed forces have not struck the railway bridges across the Dnieper, which is not true. For Ukraine, these objects play vital strategic role. Without them, the 500,000 strong frontline group of the Ukrainian armed forces will be deprived of supplies from Western countries. What made Moscow lift their ban on strikes on the bridges, and how it will affect the negotiations is unknown. The Ukrzaliznytsia company from Ukraine said the explosions that occurred on Sunday night caused significant damage to the Kurakovsky railway and Krukovsky railway and the road bridge across the Dnieper, which lead to train delays in the Poltava region. Local sources write that the attack was carried out by kamikaze drone Guran, and also reports dozens of explosions in Kremenchuk and air raid alarm throughout the region. So yes, probably you have seen, by the way, pictures of that bridge that was hit. It's a railway and auto bridge, and it was damaged. It was not completely destroyed, but it was damaged, and repairs probably will take quite a while, and this will cause some disruption in the supply and support lines, or for supply and support lines of the Kiev regime's grouping of forces on the line of contact. Well, maybe at least in this case, Russian leadership have made up its mind finally, and we will see more such strikes on vital infrastructure on the Kiev-controlled territory, including bridges, by the way, and not just on the Dnieper, but on the infrastructure facilities in Western Ukraine that also play a vital role during transportation of weapons and munition from NATO countries to this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. So let's see in upcoming days if such strikes will happen again. Then we will know that yes, there is some change in policy of Russia in regards to what to strike and what to not. But if such strikes not gonna be repeated, then well, too bad. What can I say? So many times I have seen comments in the comment section, dear friends, when members of our community are asking, why don't you strike bridges? Why don't you do this and that? I don't know. I don't know, dear friends. It's up to Russian political and military leadership, isn't it? And let me turn for a second, dear friends. There is a little exposition here in this boulevard, and I will show you some pictures from Moscow. You're gonna be familiar with many of the areas. This is Red Square, of course. This is VDNH, International Exposition Center there. St. Basil's Church, of course, Cathedral. Fountain of Friendship in VDNH, Exposition of, how you say it in English? International Exhibition Center. And each statue, by the way, from these golden ones, represents each of the republics that were part of Soviet Union. Some nuance there. This is Novodevichy Monastery. It's I don't know how should I say it in English, by the way, but recently Just a few days ago I did made a video there, isn't it? It was a night time already, but nevertheless you have seen this area too in my videos. So okay, let's go other way now, and so okay, let me continue with more news. Oh, interesting news, dear friends. I have for you that Russian units have liberated the settlement of Yunakovka in the Sumy region. Report is coming from Rogov. So Russian units have liberated the village of Yunakovka in the Sumy region, which was previously used by Ukrainian troops for sorties towards the Kursk region. According to Vladimir Rogov, expert, by the way, from DPR or Zaporozhye region. You are familiar with him. I forget the title of his status now, Vladimir Rogov. But I mean, members of community are familiar with him. So according to Rogov, Russian forces have driven Ukrainian armed forces units out of the village of Yunakovka in the Sumy region. RIA Novosti reports. Rogov added that confirmed operational information has been received from the Russian military personnel that Ukrainian troops have left their settlement. This is not the first time, dear friends, we are receiving information that this settlement is liberated. Earlier, I clearly remember there was at least one or two occasions when a number of sources reported about that. But you know what, let's wait for Russian Defense Ministry. What the Russian Defense Ministry will say about it. But of course, if Rogov is correct, then this is of course a big deal. This is of course a big deal, and well, I have to cross the street right now there, and let me turn in. I will just you know, give you some 360 view here. It's early morning, dear friends, so not that many people in that boulevard, but well, streets already are, I mean, traffic, you can see traffic, by the way. It's a work day, so it's understandable. Okay, I will cross the road and I will continue. Let's continue, dear friends. I was talking about statements of Vladimir Rogov, isn't it, sir? Expert, and I believe he has some official position too now. I will repeat this news, sir, in today's live stream in the evening, and I give you exact position of his right now. And so, yes, he made a statement, claimed that Russian armed forces completely liberated Yunakovka settlement in Sumy region. Significant progress, of course. If information confirmed by Defense Ministry, this is significant progress. Yunakovka was a main stronghold of the Kiev regime when they had during their incursion into Kursk salient area. And they were using this settlement now to keep the flanks, to maintain the flanks on their defense lines opposite of Russian buffer zone that is created in the Sumy region, where over a dozen settlements already are under Russian control. So yes, significant development there. Hopefully Defense Ministry will confirm this information during the day. Also, a couple of more news difference. I mean, as you can see, there's heavy traffic. It's still relatively early morning, but yes, Moscow is very busy, by the way. And whenever I see this traffic, by the way, nowadays, I remember this nonsensical rumors that was spread by Western propaganda that there is some fuel shortages in Russia and that kind of stuff. I have even seen questions of in the comment section that is there fuel shortages in Russia? No, man. Maybe somewhere some gas station was managed poorly, did not order it in necessary volumes of gas or petrol, diesel, whatever, and at one point they might, yes, due to poor management, they might end up in a situation. But in general, by the way, I mean, there is no fuel shortages or anything like that. Russia is an exporter, for God's sake, of oil products, petroleum, diesel, everything else. So in order here in Russia fuel shortages to be gone, then Russia have to stop all the exports, right? And in that case, first you will see fuel shortages in the Western countries, because that's where Russian fuel, by the way, mainly is going through third parties or fourth parties, right? So it is what it is. Anyway, let's continue with the news. And Orban, by the way, Viktor Orban made a quite interesting statement when I hear this. First thought was that does he, watches my videos or something? Because his statement is quite telling. Orban believes, Prime Minister of Hungary, that Ukraine as a state will ultimately be divided as a result of a current conflict into Russian-controlled, Western-controlled, and demilitarized zone. And well, that's exactly what I was talking about since the beginning of special military operation, isn't it? That western parts of Ukraine, that used to be parts of Poland, Romania, and Hungary, in case of Poland and Romania before Second World War, in case of Romania before First World War, will be reclaimed by these countries, right? So that's a Western Ukraine. But rest of the territory, with either completely or partially, but will join Russian Federation and will be in an exclusive Russian zone of influence. So from Kharkov to Odessa, for sure, by the way, 100%, I have no doubts. From Kharkov to Odessa, all the regions, Kharkov, Dnipropetrovsk, Nikolaev, Odessa regions, potentially parts at least of Chernihiv and Sumy regions, Poltava region, will join Russian Federation. I have no doubts about it. And Kiev and surrounding couple of regions maybe will maintain quasi-statehood, but exclusively as a landlocked state, but exclusively in a Russian sphere of interest and influence. That's it. That's what I was saying since forever, isn't it? And now Viktor Orban, without going into details how he personally sees this former Soviet Republic being divided, but in general he's saying the same stuff, that after this conflict Ukraine will experience full-scale disintegration, and parts will be controlled by the West, that is the Western Ukraine, parts by Russia, that is at least from Kharkov to Odessa, everything, and the part will be as a demilitarized zone, that's Kiev and surrounding areas, if Moscow for whatever reason will agree to maintain the statehood of Ukraine, but exclusively in a Russian sphere of influence. So well done to Orban, by the way. Yet again, it would be better if he will go in a little details, but he cannot. He cannot say openly right now that Hungary will reclaim Transcarpathia, can he? Nah. So he is just outlining the topic in a general terms, but yes, he has a point there. Also, dear friends, US President Donald Trump, of course, does make headlines all over the world, including here in Russia. And yesterday, he claimed that in upcoming few days, he will have yet another phone conversation with the Russian president. In past week, he made like several times, I believe, such statements, but no phone conversation had happened, at least until now. And well, maybe there will be no phone conversation this week also, but it could be done. Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, yesterday or day before stated that if there is interest from Washington, if Trump wants to have a conversation with Putin, it would not take a long time to arrange such a conversation. So Moscow has no issue with that. Moscow has no issue with that. Okay. What else do I have? And by the way, same time, dear friends, Trump did manage to come up with additional threats. On one hand, as he quite often does, he's talking about de-escalation. He's announcing phone conversation with the Russian president. But on the other hand, very same day, he is managing to threaten Russia. And on the question of so-called journalists from Western so-called media, is he ready to impose some second phase of sanctions on Russia? He went to say yes. He confirmed the information, whatever that means, by the way. I mean, what second phase of sanctions? What else is there left to be sanctioned, by the way? I mean, oxygen that is generated by Russian forest, or what exactly, right? So yes, that's a new talking point for Western propagandists, and there are also sort of phrases from Western so-called elites that they're gonna sanction Russia now with their second phase from US, and same time Trump and his team is demanding more sanctions against Russia from European states. Right? Easy for Europeans have anything left to sanction, by the way. It's insane, isn't it? It's insane. Someone has to tell to these idiots that they already imposed 20 to 30,000 sanctions on Russia. I lost count, by the way, right? Different media outlets are reporting 20,000+, others 30,000+. Some media outlets are saying that if you actually count all the sanctions, it will be over 40,000. It's insane, right? It's insane what is going on around this topic of sanctions. But nevertheless, this Western so-called media is still very keen to sort of further promote this idea and push this idea of more sanctions on Russia. Okay, what we can do about it, by the way. What we can do about it. Let's see what this second phase of sanctions from US means. What else do I have? And yes, Scott Bessent, by the way, head of US Treasury, also went to demand from Europeans some more sanctions on Russia, more sanctions on Russian partners, trade partners, right? They are cornered, by the way, isn't it? Don't you have a feeling that these so-called elites in the West, they being cornered? They cornered themselves, right? With this constant escalation, this horrible anti-Russian hysteria and rhetoric. And now they themselves become a hostage of their own propaganda. And they are just unable to tell the public the truth, right? That there is not really much left to sanction when it comes to Russia. And US or the collective West don't really have much leverage over the rest of the world to force countries worldwide to destroy their ties with Russia. Just say it, for God's sake. It's true, right? Tell the people true, and people will understand and maybe even appreciate that for once in a while, elites tell them actual, and factual information. But no, man, they are still acting like they are on top of the food chain while they are not, man. They love to pretend that they are big bosses here, and the rest of the humanity is just non-relevant, which is not the case. But anyways, by the way, let's see where these crazy policies will lead eventually. Collective West, they already are in a corner, so one shouldn't expect any breakthroughs for them, right? Impossible. Under current leadership, under such a leadership, definitely not possible. Interesting article was published, by the way, by former Russian security chief Patrushev, who was leading FSB, or Federal Security Service. He, in this article, spoke about Nord Stream pipelines and this terrorist attack on the pipelines that was orchestrated by Washington with participation of course, Norway, UK, most likely Poland, my personal opinion. And let me give you some details on what Patrushev said. So, sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines could not have been carried out without Western commandos, Western special forces. A top aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed singling out UK as the likely culprit. UK, by the way, this is interesting. Seymour Hersh, we all know that Seymour Hersh were the world-pronounced journalist from US, award-winning journalist, has claimed, based on his sources, that US actually initiated this attack. US was engaged, and Biden himself authorized the attack. And now, former head of Russian FSB is claiming that, UK play most likely the leading role. UK specialists, by the way, right? When it comes to divers and all that kind of stuff. So, as we know, German prosecutors have attributed the explosions in international waters in September 2022, which disabled their twin pipelines supplying Russian gas to Germany via Baltic Sea, to a group of Ukrainian nationals. And this group was obviously from the get-go set up to be scapegoat, right? CIA, MI6 ordered Kiev regime to set up this group with a task to work on destruction of that pipeline. That group was obviously tracked. And eventually, let's go that way. That group obviously was tracked, by the way, and they have a lot of evidences now to blame this group for this destruction of the pipelines. Although in reality, actual destruction, actual attack on pipeline was orchestrated by US, UK, Norway, right? With participation of Poland, have no doubts about it. And let's see what else Patrushev is saying here. In an article published Sunday in a Kommersant newspaper, former head of Russia's Foreign Security Service, Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, Nikolai Patrushev, argued that Ukrainians lacked the expertise to carry out such a complex operation independently. The sabotage was likely planned overseas and overseen and executed with the involvement of a highly trained NATO special forces. Patrushev wrote, adding that their perpetrators were experienced in deep sea operations and they're familiar with the working in the Baltics. Makes sense. Few armies or intelligence services in this world have divers capable of executing such an operation correctly and, above all, cowardly. One unit with the necessary skills is a British Special Boat Service. He said, Patrushev. So he's blaming, by the way, he's pointing finger at the British special boat service, right? UK has two highly trained and advertised also special forces, special units. One is SAS, of course, world famous, and little less famous, but nevertheless very capable. Very capable. This boat service, special boat service, by the way, right? And so yes, that's what Patrushev is saying. And if you keep in mind that he is a Russian aide of Russian president currently and former head of, former director of Russian FSB, I mean, he definitely knows what he's talking about. And Russian side has evidences to prove these points, right? Otherwise, these kind of statements from such a person would not become public. I personally never had no doubts that this terrorist attack on pipelines were conducted by US and UK with participation of some other NATO member states. And we, as time goes by, we have more and more evidences that this is exactly the case. At one point, we're gonna know full truth, by the way. One day we will learn full truth about this unprecedented terrorist attack that was committed by NATO against Russia on these pipelines. Against Russia and against another NATO member state, Germany, by the way, because people are forgetting that this pipeline was a combined project, right? Combined Russian-German project that would give Germany a unique opportunity, by the way, to not just maintain a leading position when it comes to economy in Europe, but to further extend its dominance as a major economical power. But Berlin, by the way, these psychos that are in charge in Germany right now, they blow all the chances, by the way, that Germany had, all the chances to stay relevant. And people in Germany are waking up to this reality. People in Germany are waking up to this reality, and that's why, and this is one of the reasons, by the way, that AfD, Alternative for Germany Party, is this popular, most popular party right now in Germany, right? What else do I have, dear friends? Just a sec. A couple of more news. One is again Trump, by the way, issued yet another warning for Hamas. He said that Israel has agreed on his terms to de-escalate, and now it's up to Hamas what they will do. And he's recommending them to basically take his offer, whatever it is, by the way, right? Or if there is even any offer on the table, any preliminary, at least, agreement or something, right? Maybe Trump is just making the stuff up, right? But that's what he said, that Israel agrees on his terms, and now it's up to Hamas to agree or else. Okay, what they gonna do? Bomb more? They already are leveling everything, by the way, that still stands in the Gaza city and in the Gaza Strip in general. So these threats, I don't think anybody is really taking seriously anymore these threats or any statements or the offers from either Washington or from Israeli regime, by the way, because they just cannot be trusted, period, by anybody, you know, not just by people of Palestine, but by anybody. I mean, literally. One have to be tremendously careless to actually trust anything that comes out from collective West leadership, man. Anything. But anyways, that's what reports are, and Russian media pays attention to it, that Trump is issuing yet another warning to Hamas and calling them to agree on his terms of the escalation. Also interesting news that Venezuela, by the way, get its hands on Iranian fast boat, missile fast boats. It's relatively small boats, by the way, that are armed with machine guns for close range fire and with the missiles at least 2 missiles, each anti-ship missiles, and I mean these boats can be issued, by the way, if properly used, for sure. And I did not know Venezuela had them, and on internet pictures are circulating with these missile boats being delivered through Venezuela. So one more thing to worry about for US strike group that is building up off coast of Venezuela. And on this very topic, dear friends, I have also interesting reports that China, by the way, is going into Venezuela big, right? And they are moving into Venezuela they are moving to Venezuela with a $1 billion floating oil facility, $1 billion worth oil drilling facility. I'm watching a picture of that complex, by the way, right now. And when I saw this news, of course, the first question that I had was, I mean, are they serious? Venezuela is about to be attacked by US, and they are these days moving in this platform that costs billion. Wow. Either they know something about the future of Venezuela, or they, I don't know. But this is extremely risky, isn't it? Extremely risky investment, I will say. And reports are, by the way, that this is not all. China wants to further increase its presence in Venezuela, moving to air map output at the 2 key oil fields in western Venezuela. And China is aiming to pump some 60,000 barrels a day as a result of these particular investments. Yet again, very bold move on part of China. But the question is, I mean, will they actually have opportunity to pump any oil whatsoever after U.S. attack on Venezuela, if such an attack will take place? And most likely it will. Most likely it will. Also, a few more news, dear friends, and I will ramp up this update. Russia has dispatched the second humanitarian aid package to Afghanistan. The Russian Emergencies Ministry posted on its Telegram channel. Il-76 transport plane, by the way, of Emergencies Ministry was directed to Afghanistan, where more than 2,000 people were killed, according to reports, as a result of recent earthquake. And people are in desperate need in affected areas. People are in desperate need for tents, warm, anything warm, by the way, warm blankets and everything else. And this is a second package of Russian aid. Afghanistani leadership asked Russia for assistance, for help, and of course Moscow will provide such assistance. More Russian humanitarian aid will be directed to Afghanistan. Have no doubts about it. I mean, services are busy, by the way. They are working, to make sure that city is clean and nice and beautiful, and it is, by the way. Moscow is definitely one of the most beautiful, well-organized cities in this world, and they're extremely friendly for its residents and the guests of the capital. Infrastructure is on a great level, by the way. I mean, no doubts about that. Probably not one of the greatest cities, but the greatest city in the world right now. especially in terms of being friendly to residents and their guests. I mean, infrastructure is constantly developing, by the way, right? And still already is on great level. I live here, so I know what am I talking about. And so, dear friends, what else do I have? Okay, Russian president, by the way, today will participate in emergency, as I call it, BRICS summit that was called by Brazil. A main topic of discussion is going to be, of course, aggression, Western or US aggression against multipolarity, against Brazil and their other BRICS member states. And you know what? Let me give you some 360 view here, dear friends. And that's gonna be it for today's first update. I will just remind you, dear friends, that later on today from 7 to 9 I will have a live stream with a second news update or main news update. And so yes, Russian president will participate in this emergency BRICS summit via video link as other leaders of the BRICS member states. They will discuss, of course, this assault on multipolarity and the BRICS by US, by collective West, and also I'm quite sure topic of Venezuela will be discussed. It is interesting what kind of statements we will hear after this summit. Of course, I will share information about it in my next updates. And this is it for now, dear friends. This is it for now. Hopefully you did like the video, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary. More likes and comments most likely will help to deal with the algorithms and reach wider audience. And if you like my work and if you want to help me maintain this project, well, you can support through several means. You can donate through PayPal and the Boosty platforms. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. You can subscribe on my Patreon page or page on Boosty, of course. Links are also under this video. And yeah, I mean, there is a crypto option too. And during the live stream, you can donate through super chat feature on Rumble, on my Rumble channel, and you can become premium subscriber on Rumble, where my channel is monetized. So yes, there is some options to help me keep this project going. So you know, and many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and see you this evening. Bye for now.